All right, so now that the panels are cleaned up, we can really see how nice this machine looks. So it's got this very transparent kind of look to it. Beautiful machine. So here on the top, we have a logo, and it's just a sticker. It's still a pretty nice touch. So here on the top, we can see our high-end extruder, and it does have like a metal casing. Also, it is strapped, so let's go ahead and cut it loose. And now it can be free, and it feels pretty good. So it is running on these rods, which seems to be okay. There is a little bit of wobble back and forth, but technically, you know, I am forcing it somewhat. But just slightly touching it, it does seem pretty stable. So our PTFE tubing comes out and then goes to the back. Our wiring here is covered in this fabric-y kind of protector, I guess. Quite interesting, and it's also white. And I don't know if you guys can see, but everything is aluminum. Like all these connectors here, these blocks are all aluminum, and it's everywhere. And I think this is where the whole Pro thing means on this printer. Just everything being very heavy duty metal material. So let's go ahead and open this door. And by the way, it is magnetic. So the hinges are quite nice and satisfying, and you guys can see they're very heavy duty. So just glancing on this printer from the inside, it looks pretty much like a standard Creality style printer, just with upgraded high quality materials. And so the way this printer operates is we got the X, and this is our X motor. And then we got the Y motor right here that's actually driven by a belt that's linked to another rod that turns both sides, and there's belts on each side that ride on the Y rails. So this is the Y here. And the Y rods are much more beefier than the X rods, which I kind of wish they would make the X a little larger, but I guess they're probably fine. So the Y end stop switch is over here, and then the X stop switch is over here. So this will go here and home, and then it will go forward to the front and home like that. So that's its home position. And then for the Z, this is our limit switch here, and the Z travels on these rods here, and they're also very large, even bigger than the Y rods. And also our lead screw is a lot larger than normal, and all the mounting is heavy duty aluminum, looks like. The whole bed frame is metal. Aluminum platform as normal, and it is heated and also insulated. So you guys can see the insulation there underneath. Also using high quality heavy duty springs on each corner, large knobs to adjust. You guys can see the bottom frame there, and it is thick metal here. So the way the platform goes on is it slides into those clips there, and then you clip it over to hold it in with that swivel. Also, the Z-axis offset is adjusted by this screw, and you can adjust it there with the limit switch. So on the back side of the bed, we can see that our heated bed is soldered, but unfortunately, there is no strain relief, which is kind of surprising. It might be a good idea to try to zip tie this thing somewhere to something where it's more stationary and not going to constantly move up and down. So going down, all of our rods go into this piece of metal here, and then we got our motor underneath for the lead screw. And the rods look like they're secured very well here in this clean bottom, very nice looking. There's a sticker here with a QR code and some warnings. Very nice view out both windows on each side. Feels very airy and plenty of room for sticking your hand in there and, you know, doing stuff. Going to the front here, we have the display, and it is a 4.3-inch touchscreen display. And peeling the protector off looks like almost an impossible job because it's jammed in between the screen and the metal here. It's not coming off nicely. Again, this is for Creality. You know, think about, you know, how people will be taking this off. So it would be nice if you put the screen protector on top after you install it, or go ahead and peel it, because, you know, this is not a great experience here. All right, so I cleaned it up with a knife. Looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and close the door, and you guys can see there's a cutout. Fits around the screen. So pretty nice attention to detail pretty much everywhere, and everything feels high quality. So going to the left side of the printer, it's pretty clean here. We have some venting holes on the bottom. Very nice and premium looking machine. Going to the right side here, we have our connections, which is the USB, and this is if you want to connect from the printer to the computer. And then our full-size SD card reader here. Our voltage selector, which is quite important because we are actually set right down to 230, so I do need to switch that to 115. So let's go ahead and do that with the provided screwdriver. All right, simple as that. Now we're on 115. So you want to make sure you check that before you power the printer on, especially if you live where voltages are 230. So yeah, it looks pretty clean on this side. And here we have the back side. So I flipped it around so we can see a little better. So on the top here, we have the hot end cable with the PTFE tubing going through this 3D printed bracket. And so the cables go through here and then inside. while the PTFE tubing keeps going down. And here we have the extruder arm. So this is a really nice one with what appears to be a dual gear, and it actually pushes on both sides. So the main gear here with the shaft turns this other one, and they both together clamp on onto the filament and push it up through the tube into the hot end. A very nice quality extruder. And looking here on the inside, you guys can see how large the motor is itself on the extruder. Very nice to see that they beefed it up. So going down below the extruder arm, we have the filament detector, and it is all metal also. We can see here there's an arrow pointing up, so your filament will go underneath through the detector and then into the extruder. So that also looks like a pretty high quality detector. So going down from here, we see we have a hole here. So this hole is actually for our spool holder, and we'll install that in a second. Let's go ahead and go here and see a label here. So this is all of the parameters of the printer. So we can see the build size is 300 by 225 by 380. So very reasonable build volume. We got the machine size, type, the power, and the weight, which is 32.5 kilograms. So quite a heavy machine. And below the label here, we have the power input that is fused and has an on and off power switch. But yeah, very nice and beautiful machine from every side. And install the spool holder. So we're going to take one of the nuts off, the side that has two, and then we're simply just going to thread it through this hole and then put the other nut through the other side and tighten it. And just like that, the spool holder is on. So our spool will literally hang here and then feed up to the detector through the extruder arm and into the hot end. So while we're back here, let's go ahead and put our spool on. And we do get Creality branded PLA here. So very nice. It looks like that nice matte white color. And so we're just going to simply set the spool right over here, and this is how it hangs. Now it does appear that it's pretty close to the switch, but there is room there, so it's not touching it. So before you feed any filament, you want to cut it at an angle, and that'll help it feed it through the system without getting caught up on anything. So we're going to go through the detector first, and actually I can hear a click. So out of the detector, we're going to go into the extruder arm. We're going to compress the arm and then push it through. So there's not too much room here to push it manually. So we'll use the printer with the extruder software to push it through like that. And so since we are back here, let's go ahead and plug in our power cord. And it does appear to be about 4 to 5 feet long, so pretty good length there. So we'll plug it in, and I can confirm that there is about ½ an inch or so from the spool itself. So it's not touching, but it's close. Now one thing I wish they would have done, and it looks like they could have, I don't know why they put the spool here. They could have offset the spool more that way, and it definitely would have been more out of the way from the cable and the switch. And also it would have lined up a lot better with the detector here. Of course, when the spool does almost run out, it's pretty close, but they could have moved it that way about an inch and still been perfectly fine and would have cleared up this area, but no big deal. That's the way it is. So everything looks good back here. So I can't wait to power this thing on, but before we do, let's go ahead and check out the hot end assembly here a little closer since we didn't look at it. So hopefully you guys can see at least something here, but we do have a 3D printed fan duct. So that's a little disappointing to see, honestly, for this scale of a printer. You would think they would have something a little bit more presentable here. Not only that, it's a little bit rough, but in any case, it doesn't matter as long as it's functioning right. So our axial fan here is on the front and is blowing through here on the tip, and the heat block is insulated, so that's good to see. Our belt connects here on this metal frame. Everything definitely feels really high quality overall, and I don't know if you guys can make out the heat break in there, but it does look like Creality's latest style. So but yeah, overall a pretty nice design and looks pretty good, but we'll see here in a second how well it's going to print. And also here on the top right behind the Creality logo, underneath there we can see that it looks like there is an LED bar for lighting, so that's really nice. So we should have pretty good illumination inside the printer. So I got the printer laying on one of its sides, and I know there's some of you guys out there that would be pretty interested in seeing what is inside of this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and open the bottom and we can take a closer look. So there are 8 bolts that we need to take off. All right, so let's take the cover off, and wow, just the cover itself is very heavy. I mean, we got a pretty thick sheet of metal here. So the printer is industrial indeed. And so here we can see all of the internals, and it's managed pretty well. But right away I can see that we're pretty minimalistic in here. There's plenty of room for other things technically. So let's take a closer look here. Starting on the top, we can see there's a hole there with some wiring. Same thing on that side. And by the way, this is the front and this is the back. Here's our Z-axis motor, and it also is the large one like the extruder motor. We can see this nice block of metal. Very nice. Going down, this is the power input. So everything looks nicely organized and crimped. We have a Meanwell power supply You guys can see the branding there. It is a 24 volt, 350 watts, and it's the slim version, and I like it because it's quieter, and also this fan, it only runs when it needs to, so that should help with the noise. So here we have the main board, and this is the Creality 3D version 2.51. So I'm not too familiar with what this board is capable of, or if it's silent or not, but I guess we'll find out when we start printing. But it does have the full-size SD card, which is nice. The stepper drivers are integrated into the board, and they are heat-sinked, so that's good. And that is the processor. I think it's the typical one that Creality uses. So overall, everything is managed pretty well, and it's also hot glued on the connectors so they don't pop off. There's a fan here that blows onto the board to cool it off, and we can kind of see our display board there on the front. So yeah, overall looks pretty good and clean. So I'm gonna put the cover back on and we'll go to the next step. All right, so I think we're finally ready to power it on. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this door. So let's go ahead and hit the power switch in the back. And I can hear it powered on. See the intro there with the loading bar. All right, it looks like we're booted up. So for the next part, what I like to do is home the machine. So let's go to control. Oh, maybe that's not where it is. Settings maybe? Okay, here we go, settings. And then move, and there's a home button right here, right in the middle. Okay, so it's homing. And I can confirm, guys, that it is quiet, or at least on the X and Y axes, and the Z axis seems reasonably quiet, but I can hear a hum on it, so not sure if that's silenced or not, but the X and Y seemed very quiet. All right, and it looks like the Z axis homed. So I didn't install the glass bed yet because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't gonna hit it when it homed. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab it, peel the protector off while trying not to touch the build surface because any little grease will mess it up. And we're just gonna install it back to where it was. Pretty easy process, and the clips hold it here on the front. So we're gonna get off the tripod. This printer is so large, I think it'll be better if I can move you guys around so we can see a little better. So let's start here with the UI. I'm gonna go back. So a pretty nice looking UI. I definitely like the way it looks. So here we have some hot buttons of print, control, and settings. And this is our temperature on the hot end, and then our bed temperature here. So this is the main screen when you boot up. So to read the files, you'll click on print. Now control is other settings here. I'm not too familiar with this. It says automatic here. Okay, so this is, looks like preheating. So it's asking us PLA or ABS. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, maybe now. So I guess let's click on PLA since that's what we're starting off. Okay, so this is actually a hot button to preheat. And then we have the manual here where we control the temperatures manually. And then cooling means cool down, like if you don't want it to stop from heating up. And let's see what device is. Okay, so here we can turn the fan on and off, and also the LED. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and turn that on. Wow, that's bright. It just turned on and it's very bright. But also a very nice color. It's not blue or anything weird. It's actual white color. Very cool. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it on because I really like it. So let's go back. So here we have status heating. And if we go into settings, this is going to be our printer controls. So we got leveling, refuel, filament change or extruder controls. And then the movement, which we saw, can individually move or press the home button there in the middle to home it. Motor control. Okay, so this unlocks the motor, it looks like. Languages, which we have two, English or Chinese. And then about the printer, the type, the version, the printing volume, and the website. All right, so yeah, as you guys can see, very basic, not too difficult to figure out here. So I think the first thing we need to do, since it is preheating, go ahead and level the bed. So leveling the bed should be quite simple because I think it is a manual procedure here, just like Creality is known for. So it's homing right now. Okay, so it is home. So here you guys can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these are just the 4 corners and then the center. This is just an assistant to get you there, and then you're gonna have to manually turn each knob to go up and down. So let's go ahead and start with 1. So I'm gonna click it, and you guys can see it goes to our first point. And so what you want to use is some kind of sheet of paper. I'm just going to use the sticky note. And so we're just going to do the regular manual bed leveling. So we're going to start with this corner, put our paper between the nozzle and the bed. And the bed is hot, by the way. And you definitely want to preheat everything so when it does expand, you can get the right dimensions between. All right, so that's starting to drag. So I'm going to go ahead and click on 2 next. So it's going to go to the next corner, which is over here. So we're going to adjust that. So this one was actually pretty close already. Now we'll go to 3, which is going to be that corner over there, looks like. Okay, and that's too tight. to loosen it up a bit. And that's good right there. You can go to 4. So yeah, pretty basic stuff. And that's too tight also. So even though I adjusted the 4 corners, we can go to the middle and check that. But before we do that, we need to go over the corners again. So you want to do the 1 through 4 at least 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4, to get all the corners very level. And then we're going to go to 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and go over it a few times. So even though I adjusted 1 correctly, now it's too tight. And this is why you want to go over it a few times. All right, so I'm pretty happy with 4 of the corners. I had to go over it 3 times. So if you have to keep doing it until you're really close on each corner. So now I can go to the middle and see what the middle looks like. And the reason you want to do the middle last is because once you get every corner correct, then you can offset the middle if you need to a bit. Like right now, my middle seems to be a little looser than I would like. So what I can do is I can go to each knob and turn it exactly the same amount to raise the whole thing up or down. So in my instance, I want to raise it up. So I'm going to loosen each knob just a little bit. So I'm going to do about 1/8 of a turn. So like that. So that's not going to throw off my level, but it's going to raise my bed up just a little bit. And that feels perfect right there, actually. That's a little tip or trick that you can do. Now you are going to be obviously closer on the ends now. The center is obviously more important because that's where you print most of your prints and that's where you start the prints. But because we have a glass here, it's pretty close already. So this is just a very increment kind of leveling now. So all right, so now that we're done with leveling, let's go to refuel. And this is going to control the extruder, so we're going to feed in or out the filament. And obviously we need to feed it in right now. So it's set to 10 millimeters. I'm not sure exactly how much I need, but it's going to be a lot more than that. Let's just go with 200 right now. I think that's at least what we need. And here we have a choice either to retract or feed. We're going to choose the feed. All right, so it's going up to temperature and it should start feeding. All right, so it took a little while. For some reason, it waits exactly when it gets there. It takes a while to get it to the right temperature. So now it is pushing. I can hear it. And you guys can see the extruder moving, or the gears moving. So it is pushing in pretty slow. I think I would just rather manually push it through because it is quite a bit of length through the whole thing until it comes out. All right, looks like here it comes. So we got some red there. And we should start having white here in a second. So it does go really slow, as you guys can see. So I would definitely push it in through manually because of how slow it is. All right, so it looks like it stopped right before it purged completely. So I'm just going to manually push it through. You guys can see that it comes out much faster. All right, so now that we're purged, I think we are ready to print our first print. So let's go ahead and grab this included SD card. And insert it here on the side. I think it goes right side up maybe? No, upside down probably. Yep, just like that. By the way, very cool, nice purple and red colors here coming out through the side. Pretty cool. So now we can click on print, and sure enough, we do have some files on there. Test dog, cat, and tootsie, whatever that means. So it looks like we do have 3 files to try out. So let's go ahead and go with tootsie. I guess that's what that is. So over here it looks like it says start. Let's click that and looks like we've started. Very nice UI here. I definitely like this presentation. Very clean, and the dark background makes it very premium. So we can see here the temperature of the nozzle, the bed temperature, our progress bar, the percentage finished, and the time that passed. Then we have a stop button here and then some adjusting buttons. So let's click here. Okay, so this is cool. We have an offset for the Z-axis as we're printing. So if we need to go up a little or down, we can do that on the fly. So I'm not sure what all this is. Economic mode is on. I wonder what that's about. And then we got LED, fan, print speed adjustment, nozzle temperature, and bed temperature adjustments. So yeah, all the things you need and very good controls. I'm gonna go back. So it's heating up right now and we should start here shortly. All right, here we go. Okay, so it looks like it's purging on the side there. And there it goes. It looks like our offset is pretty much perfect, I would say. Okay, so for this print, they're using the Z-hop where the bed goes up and down constantly. So I normally don't like using that. but I guess for some prints, you know, it could work pretty well. All right, so it looks good to me, honestly. Now I can tell right away that it definitely has silent steppers on the X and Y because it's practically silent. You can't hear anything coming out of them. Now there is a lot of fan noise, or maybe not a lot, but a little bit of coming out of the head itself. But fan noise itself is not bad compared to stepper motor sound. Is the thing that gets quite annoying after a while. Fan noise is more kind of a soothing thing unless, you know, the fan is just really squeaky or something. So here you guys can see from the top, everything looks really good. The print's going down, and it looks like this bed here is working very well because it's sticking, no issues. And that's the thing I love about the style bed, is that it sticks very well when it's hot, and then when it cools, our model should just pop right off. So we'll see how that goes when it's done. But yeah, overall very quiet just for fan sound. Let me bring my mic in so you guys can hear it well. All right, so it looks like we got a really good start. And if you guys see how nice this printer looks, it's quite impressive, especially with that LED glowing on the inside. It just really enhances this plexiglass that's tinted slightly blue. It's a really unique and interesting look. And even here from the top, you can really see everything very well with that light. And so far what I can see, in good old Creality's fashion, looks like the print is gonna come out pretty nice so far. So I'm gonna let this thing print out, and we'll see what comes out. So the printer's printing away, everything looks good, about 43% done. And looking at the model, it's looking pretty good. Unfortunately, I do see some layering, so I wonder if that has to do with the Z-hop that it's doing. I don't know if you guys can tell or not, but it looks like a little bit of some kind of layering, but we'll look at it a little closer when it's finished. But overall, it is looking pretty good, so. All right, so 2Z is done, and it took 2 hours and 6 minutes, I guess. So let's open up the door here, and we can see here that 2Z is a rabbit. So the bed is cooled off pretty much. Let's see how easy this thing pops off. Well, look at that, just as expected, very easy. And this is why I love this type of bed, because it works very well. All right, so looks like overall it looks pretty good. I can definitely see a little bit of layering. I don't know if you guys can pick it up on the camera or not, but it's not perfect. It does look like it's 0.2 layer height. You can kind of see here on the top. Retraction was not perfect. We have some stringing between the ears. Well, it looks like the support here is falling off. There's just really fine stringing, so probably just need to up the retraction a bit. But overall, it's pretty smooth and pretty good. I wouldn't say, you know, it's great for sure. But for a test print that we didn't slice, it turned out okay.